all my colleagues in this movement share the frustration that I have, that there's cases you have where you know your client is innocent and you run out of options. And about a year ago, I was thinking about 12 of my clients that were cases that my project for years have been litigating, some of them 15 years, 14 years, 13 years. In some of the cases, courts had found them innocent and they were still in prison. We had clients in there. I always hear about people who get out of prison on technicalities. I have clients who are in prison on technicalities, didn't file their paperwork on time. You know, we had one client who a federal judge declared innocent, and then later on that got reversed because they claimed the initial filing by the inmate wasn't timely. So it's incredibly frustrating when you just run out of options and you know they're innocent. And not only do you know they're innocent, you have the proof. You have evidence that proves them innocent. And so I knew clemency was the last option for these cases. But I also know that clemency is highly political and you got to get the governor's attention. So I came up with this crazy idea that I was going to walk the clemency petitions from my office in San Diego to Sacramento to the governor's office. And I went into my office the next day, told my staff about it, and thought, well, they'll talk me out of this. And they didn't. Not only did they not talk me out of it, two of my young lawyers said, I'm going to walk with you. And we started out on our journey. We initially thought it was going to be 600 miles due to a lot of detours, due to fires and things going on along the way. It ended up being 712 miles. And we walked from San Diego to Sacramento. And along the way, we spoke at high schools and colleges and community centers and anyone who'd listen about our story. And it was the hardest thing I've done in my life, but it was the best thing. I had family members of people behind bars. I had clients I got out of prison that come and walked with me. Their families walked with us. When we walked up to Sacramento, up to the Capitol, on the last day of the march, we had 300 people with us. I mean, it was a scene right out of Forrest Gump. And, you know, about a third way into the march, we got the meeting we wanted with the governor's staff when the media started covering it and started taking on a life of its own. And we're still waiting to see what the governor's going to do with those cases. You know, I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't know if he's going to do it on his last day in office. I don't know, but it was an amazing experience. It really was. Days to walk from San Diego to Sacramento. You know, and when I tell people we'd walk like 14 to 20 miles a day, they'll say like, oh, that doesn't sound like much. But you gotta think about walking 20 miles and then getting up the next day and walking 20 miles, and then getting up the next day. It's day in, day out, across desert conditions for large parts of it. And there's one thing walking or driving Big Sur. There's nothing walking Big Sur. Big Sur never ends, and you don't realize that Big Sur goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And yeah, so parts of it were kind of surreal, but I know everything there is to know about my two staff attorneys. After hundreds and hundreds of hours, they know everything there is to know about their boss, and I highly recommend it. I mean, I don't know any lawyer that can take time out to spend, say, 8 hours talking to their client's mother. But I did that multiple times, where these parents came and just walked next to me, and we talked for hours on end, and got to know my clients and their childhoods and everything about them. It's hard, because now you carry those stories a little too closely and a little too detailed. But it was amazing. 4 days ago, it was a year from the day we left walking. And June 20th will be the 1-year anniversary. We're going to return to the Capitol with all the families. I've asked for a meeting with the governor's staff again. We're going to try to get the media out to cover it, and we're going to try to keep the pressure on until the governor, you know, does the right thing. California prisons are desperately overcrowded. They're under federal court order to reduce the numbers. The governor's been ordered to release people from prison, and I've had a very simple message for him. Why not start with these 12 innocent people before we start talking about letting people go who have shorter sentences but are guilty? But it's hard to get the attention in a state like California, get them really to look closely at these cases and see what miscarriages of justice they've been.
Was a case back in the late 80s in a southern Illinois county where Peggy Jo was convicted, along with her brother, of killing her husband. The husband was extremely abusive, both physically and sexually, to both Peggy and her children. She had 4 young children at the time, and the husband basically isolated her from her family and friends and anyone else that could help her. And the brother came early one morning and got into an altercation with the husband. Peggy Jo took her children down to the neighbors and left, and when she got back, she left her children with the neighbor. When she came back, there was blood in the bedroom, the two vehicles were gone, and her husband and brother were gone. She later was arrested and incarcerated and ended up receiving a life sentence for the murder of her husband. And I felt that there was no physical evidence. We knew it was undisputed that she wasn't at the crime scene. The state's theory was that she left the door unlocked at the farmhouse for her brother to come in and supposedly murder her husband. However, I've lived in the country all my life, and we never lock our doors. We leave the keys in the vehicles. I mean, it's not uncommon at all to leave a door unlocked. So basically, there was no evidence that she had anything to do with the crime, and a life sentence was extremely harsh, even if she was involved. Peggy Jo Jackson's case stood out for me initially. I thought it was an extremely compelling case, and so I took it to our founding director. This was actually before John was there, Larry Golden, and we didn't have the resources to do anything for her at that time. And we contacted several other agencies to garner their help with her case. Domestic violence groups, and we contacted them and worked in tandem with the Illinois Clemency project for battered women. Peggy Jo had an advocate that called me on a regular basis, provided us with her legal documents, which I shared with the Clemency Project. And we kept in touch with them over the years, and I did some witness interviews in support of the petition. We reached out to people on Facebook to sign the petition once they read about her case. We also went to various agencies and classrooms here at UIS where our students spoke to other students about her case and asked them to sign petitions. And we took all these letters to the governor in support of the petition. We also had students calling on a daily basis to the governor's office in support of the petition. And the governor granted clemency for Peggy Jo back in 2013. Jo, in this case, was just a release from her sentence. So, in other words, it wasn't a exoneration from her crime. I mean, she's still a convicted felon, and in fact is serving time on parole like a normal felon would do after they're released, after they've completed their sentence. So it basically just commuted her sentence and released her, but she still has all the obstacles that any other convicted felon would face in terms of employment, Social Security benefits, all that type of thing. I think it meant to her to have her life back, and to be rejoined with her family. Her mother is elderly and doesn't have a lot of time left, and she has 2 sisters she's extremely close to, so she is living in South Carolina with her family members, and just really has a new lease on life.
What did it mean to you?
We are right now, other 2 volunteers and myself, we are working on one of our clients who we had been able to get him out of prison. So we are working on his clemency petition to see if we can get pardon for him and get him full freedom that he deserves. And we have been reading a lot of cases, case histories and things like that. We will probably make a presentation to the Prison Review Board for his petition. It's a whole clemency process. It's a very organized thing. You have a forms and you follow that format, and each one of us are assigned to individual tasks to fill out those forms. Generally, a clemency petition runs about 60 to 100 pages long, so there's a lot of material that goes in it. We are trying to make a case for his clemency in front of Prison Review Board, and so we had to do all this research, put forward our thinking in it, and why one should give him that pardon.
Pam's case is still pending. We have a clemency petition before the governor right now that has not been ruled on. If you can do anything, please look it up on the internet to get more information about it. Please contact the governor's office, write them letters. The most recent case involving Jennifer Del Pratt that was reversed and vacated by the federal court in Chicago is almost an identical case. Governor Quinn can do something about this, and it's really the right thing to do. So any support you can give for Pam ongoing would be appreciated, not only by me, but most importantly by her. Thank you very much.